Good morning, everyone. This is Mrs. Stone, and hopefully, I have all my technical problems figured out. And this is a lesson on how to we went through the color editing. This is kind of like part two to show you how to fix the parts that you've already color edited. So, hopefully, your home teacher is sitting right there beside you, and you can go through this together. One of the things that I really want to stress is that I don't want you to tackle this in one day because you're going to get frustrated, your child's going to get frustrated, and you're going to instill the idea that writing is hard and you hate doing it and everything. And so I'd really like for you to tackle this in steps. And so let's go through and see what I have. So as we left off on our last video, this is what we ended up with. This is kind of how I had you color code everything. We did the sentence length. We've done the helping and linking verbs, the sentence variety, and everything like that. So this is what we kind of ended up with on our last video. Now, I kept thinking about how in the world am I going to show you how to switch everything around, because what I did is this is actually my edited, completed, final version that I showed you the copy on. And so what I want to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you a paragraph that has a lot of mistakes in it. And I'm going to color code it the same way. And then I'm going to help you a little bit walk through what needs to be done. Now, if you've taken my Parent University class at the beginning of the year, my writing workshop for grades 3 through 5, you've probably already seen this. You might, sit and watch it a little bit more just to kind of get some helpful hints. But I'm basically using the same paragraph that I used in that workshop to kind of walk you through. But we're just going to go through steps, and I'm hoping you're going to grab the idea and figure out what I'm talking about, because it's a little bit hard to walk you through it on a PowerPoint with just my voice. So we're going to give this a whirl. So what I've done is I have taken a paragraph that could be typically written by a regular fourth grader, by a fourth grader who doesn't necessarily like to write. They, throw stuff down really very quickly, and they meet the minimum requirements. So this is what I came up with. I started a business last summer. I made papers telling about my business. Mom and me delivered them to the houses. Skipper was my first dog. Mr. Jones said I did a great job. I have been in business for a year. I have about 7 dogs every Saturday. I am very busy. I want to own a pet store one day. So what I did is I took that paragraph and I color coded it exactly the same way that I had you color code your country paragraph. Now, the biggest thing about this is you're not going to try to fix everything at one time. I think that you can get very frustrated when you try to fix everything and the child looks at you and says, oh my gosh, I did nothing right. No, they did absolutely everything right. They're a fourth grader. This is a training period where we try to fix the stuff that we see. So what I want to do is I want to take this paragraph, and this is the order I would really like for you to tackle their country paper in. The very first thing I want you to do first is I want you to go through and I want you to look at everything that you highlighted in yellow and brown. These are the nouns, adjectives, and referents. Okay, what you're going to do is this is the very first step you're going to take. You're not going to correct capitalization. You're not going to correct punctuation. You're not going to do anything. You're just going to look at the nouns to see if they have descriptive adjectives, nice, juicy adjectives. And you're going to look at the referents that you did in brown. Did they just keep saying over and over and over again the country's name? Or have they made a referent? And we've talked about that before, and you can go back and look at the original paragraph and see what I'm talking about. But these are the easiest things to change. This is the easiest first step to do. So you can do this in a matter, this paper is not due until next Friday. Home teachers, I would suggest that you type it. You don't have to type it and put it all together until Thursday. So that means that you've got Wednesday and Thursday of this week, and you've got Monday and Wednesday of next week to get this completely done. And if you see, I have 4 different steps. And so if you want to take 4 days, I know you're ready to turn that paper in and get it over with, but it's better to not stress over this than to have the speed. So the very first thing I want you to do is I want you to tackle your nouns and your adjectives and your referents. So let's go back and look at my paragraph that I had. And I want you to notice that the bottom paragraph is my final edited version of the top paragraph. So let's take a look and see how I compared. So if you'll notice, the very first word that I have is the word business, and in yellow. And you'll notice that I do not have an adjective in front of that. So if you go down to the bottom paragraph, you'll see that I have now changed it to a dog washing business. Okay, so I've taken the business where they've had the noun just by itself, and I've added dog washing. You'll also see that I've taken the word flyer or papers, and I have changed it to the word flyers. Why did I do that? Because flyers is a little bit more descriptive. Papers can be anything. I hand out papers all the time. Okay, but that's not what you would do for a business. You could say flyers, you could say brochures, you could say pamphlets, whatever. But this is where you're going to beef up those nouns, change them to more descriptive nouns, more specific nouns, and add those adjectives. Okay, so if you go through this, it'll kind of give you an idea. The next one that I did, I will skip the second business one, but if you go through and you find the word houses, okay, I have houses, but what I did is I took the word houses and I added neighborhood. It's more descriptive. It's more, it tells me a very specific location that I was focusing on. So that's the very first thing I want you to do. I want you to go through and I want you to focus on those yellow and brown words, the nouns without the adjectives, and if they've said their country's name too many times. So that's the first thing I want you to fix. All right. So after you've done that, and I'm going to leave this video posted so you can come back and look and see what I'm talking about. So the next thing I want you to look at is I want you to look at the sentence length. And this is everything that I've had you underline in the red and the blue. So if you go back to this paragraph and I look at the red and the blue, well, if you keep going down, these are pretty short sentences for a fourth grader. But what I did is you can combine those short sentences into something longer. Let me see if I can find an example in here. Here, what I did is I took this, okay, see if I can get this highlighted correctly. All right, we're going to underline it. We're going to outline that in blue so you can see it a little bit better. Okay. Now, I put down Miss Skipper's owner, Mr. Jones, commented that I did an amazing job and he would tell all of his friends. If you look back up into the paragraph, okay, I combined Mr. Jones said I did a great job, okay. Now, if you do a great job, if somebody, like in a business, if I have somebody that thinks that I do a great job, okay, just like in teaching, if people think that I do a great job teaching, they're more likely to tell other people. If people think I do a horrible job of teaching, they're more likely to tell other people. So what I did is I took Mr. Jones commented, I took out that word said because we're not allowed to use the word said. Mr. Jones commented that I did an amazing job, okay? So I changed great to amazing, okay? And then I took and I added to that sentence because it was choppy. Now, another thing that you can do is that you can combine sentences, all right? If you look at the last two sentences, I am very busy. I want to own a pet store one day, okay? What I did is I am very busy is an extremely short sentence. So I had a choice. I had to either eliminate that and change it to something else, or I could have combined it with a sentence in front of it or behind it. All right. I could have very easily changed it around and said, I am so busy. I have about 7 dogs every Saturday. That's one long sentence. Okay. I separated it with a comma. You can separate it with conjunction, whatever you want to. But you need to look at the length of those sentences and take out any choppy sentences. Now, that goes for run-on sentences too. If you see a sentence that is going on for a couple of lines that means that you need to put some sort of punctuation there because it's just too long. So remember what we talked about, read it. If there's a normal pause or something, you're going to put a comma. But if you can also tell that way when there's a normal pause, if there needs to be a period or an exclamation point or a question mark. Your voice takes a normal pause when you stop, all right? And run-on sentences, you normally stop somewhere in a run-on sentence, so that's where you're going to put your punctuation. All right, so this is something that you tackle a different time. I would highly suggest you do not sit down in 1 hour. 1 hour of writing for a fourth grader is too long. And so if you need to get it cranked out, what I would suggest you do is I would sit down in 15-minute slots. And I would say, okay, we're going to write, we're going to correct for 15 minutes, then stop, go on to something else. If it's lunch, if it's another subject, whatever, then come back to it and start tackling it over again. When I'm giving instruction and stuff, especially in writing, we never go on for 15 minutes. If it's longer than 15 minutes, it usually involves me giving instruction and then them writing. It's not trying to correct something. 15 minutes is about all I would expect you to do at one time. All right, let's see what I want you to tackle next. So if you go back to my list, sentence variety. This is where you circled the first word of every sentence in green. Now, if you look at my original sentence, you'll see I started a business. I made papers. I, all the way through that paper. All right. What you're going to do is I want you to look it down and see specifically what I did to that very first sentence. I did not change the wording of that sentence. I just moved it around. So instead of saying I started a business last summer, what I did is I took the end of that sentence right here. All right, that's going to highlight that in green so you can see that. Okay, I took the last part of that sentence and just moved it to the front. No longer does that sentence start with I, it starts with last summer, something that I put at the end of the sentence. You can change those things around. Okay, if you look at the next one, it says I made papers. I just added the word first. This is very easy to do because this is a great place for you to notice that you have no, I just lost the word. Transitions. There you go. You have no transitions in your paper. Okay, this is a great time to be able to add those transitions because if you're looking for sentence variety, you don't need to change your sentence around necessarily. You can just add a little phrase to the front of the sentence to help you lead into the next sentence or the next paragraph. So sentence variety, that's what I'm talking about. If you look, that's a good example in this paragraph was what I was talking about in that very first sentence. So now that we've tackled the green, okay, the yellow, the red, the blue, and the brown, we just have one left, and it's those dreaded linking and helping verbs. And I know that many of you, this is where you're going to pull your hair out. So if you go back to my original sentence, okay, so number 4 is I want you to do the verbs. We had you box all linking and helping verbs in purple. And I had you put the number down, and I want you to cut that in half. Boys and girls, I'm not going to sit there and count. Ooh, did they actually cut those in half? You know, oh, they didn't do it 2 more times they needed to. That gets checked off. I'm going to be able to read it and see if you've used too many helping and linking verbs. Because what you need to do, you need to change those helping and linking verbs strictly to action verbs. And I'm going to show you one that I did on this one. If I can find it. Okay. Here's one. Okay, up here I have, the sentence says, I have about 7 dogs every Saturday. If you go down to my sentence down here, every Saturday I wash about 7 dogs. Okay, so what I did is I have taken the have out and changed it to a action verb of wash. Okay, and so that immediately eliminated my helping or my